it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Her Success Story. Today, listeners, I have a very, very special guest. Betsy Atkins is a three-time CEO woman, a mover and shaker. She is currently on boards with Wynn Corporation, Volvo. She has made an impact and made a pathway for women leaders and has really opened up and educated around the space of women on boards. Her latest book, her third book, is Be Board Ready: The Secrets to Landing a Board Seat and Being a Great Director. Betsy has been a serial entrepreneur for numerous years. Sometimes us women choose not to count every year. Betsy, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join me here today on Her Success Story and share some of your journey and your knowledge.
Well, Ivy, great to be with you, and hello to your listeners.
So tell me, how did you get started in the sense of, being a CEO of three various corporations, being on, if I have those numbers right, it's close to 30 boards in your career. Where did you start out? Give us a little background here.
I started out at a great big company named General Electric. And I think that I was an affirmative action hire. I was very miffed when they told me they needed me for a federal contract. And here I thought they wanted me. But at any rate, I went from large corporations, found that wasn't a great fit for me. I went to more entrepreneurial companies and then started working with my co-founders to write business plans, present to venture capital investors, and co-found and start companies. And that was kind of my pathway. And I always served on boards of the private companies that I co-founded, and then went to other private corporate boards and on to public.
So how did you create those leaps?
Purposefully. I felt like if I was going to co-found the company, why shouldn't I be on the board and have a say? And it really never occurred to me that I wouldn't be welcome. And so it was by consciously deciding that I wanted to be part of the decision making. And I think for your listeners, if you're going to get there, you need to create for yourself a goal and a set of plans and, tenaciously pursue it.
And one thing I'm loving what you're saying is you didn't see that it wasn't possible. You just saw the possibility and you stepped into it. You owned it.
I think that's right for everybody out there. Everyone who's listening, you have skills and talents, and it's just a matter of distilling down your unique messaging, your sort of value prop, as it were. What does the brand of you stand for? And once you figure out the sort of three key unique attributes of your personal brand, then you can message it both to your peers, to your managers, into your network, and then, prepare a plan and look at all the different pathways and channels to get to the boardroom, because there's a lot of them. And actually, that's why I wrote my book, Be Board Ready, which was to sort of give the roadmap. Having now been on 28 public boards, I kind of have demystified and figured out what worked for me and hope it'll be useful for others.
So talk to us a little bit about, because I love that you're bringing this forth, is the importance of knowing and identifying your own personal brand.
So I think you have to think about your attributes. So it could be your functional knowledge. It could be, I'm a financial expert, I'm a product innovator, I'm a marketeer. So, what is your functional expertise? What is your stage of company expertise, sort of 0 to 10 million, 10 million to 50, 50 to 250, because, you fit into certain stages of companies. So what part of the corporate journey is your expertise? Are you a growth executive, like a unicorn, hyper growth, hyperscale? Are you a turnaround executive? So figure out what you have done well, what you are uniquely great at. Are you great at ideation? Are you great at follow through and execution? So figure out your quantitative things, which would be I'm a financial expert, a product person, a marketing person. Your company journey expertise. I'm great at companies that are 100 million to 500 million. And think about your qualitative attributes. I'm the problem solver. I'm the bridge builder, the connective tissue weaver. I'm the ideation person. So figure out those three pieces: functional, company journey, qualitative, and distill down your unique differentiated value prop. And then stick with it. Like all branding, you keep reinforcing the message.
I love it. In simplifying it is know your sweet spot. Know who you are when you look in the mirror, know your sweet spot, know where you contribute best, and then actually stand on that platform.
And figure out where, why would somebody want Ivy on the board? What is her value? Well, her value is amazing global network, connector. She has a generosity gene. She gets pleasure and joy from helping others. She understands pattern recognition. So those would be my attributes for you. If I was going to try and say my attributes for me, it might be that I've been through hypergrowth. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I understand digital transformation and how you apply tech to enabling other industries. And that's the perspective I would characterize that I might bring to a boardroom. So figure out what that is, and then match it against, a target company, and figure out the pathways to get the opportunities, the at-bats, and then match yourself against how you're going to accelerate that other business. Because if you can't figure out how you're an asset and an accelerant, if you just think being oversight is enough, I don't think that board model, that governance model is not contemporary. That's last millennium's model, oversight only. Now you got to be an asset.
I love that. And so in being an asset and seeing yourself as an asset, what are some, I always like to ask guests, what are the successes and the challenges in the journey of business and life that you have seen for yourself?
I think in being an asset, one of the first things that works is if you're going to want to help, activate and build a network, you have to look at your network as a fabric of relationships that you forward invest in. If you look at a network as a transaction, please do this for me, why would someone do that if they don't know you and you haven't forward invested and built your credibility? I mean, it's like a bank, right? If you come in and ask me to make an introduction for you to join the Wynn Resorts or the Volvo board, why would I do that? I don't know you. You would, just like a bank, you would put your money in and invest before you try to make a withdrawal. So you have to forward invest in your relationships with people before you ask for help. And it's reasonable to do a 3-for-1. Right? If I've done 3 proof points where I've gone out of my way to help you in your career and done favors and found a way to be an asset and a valuable resource for you 3 times, then it might be reasonable on the 4th that I would come to you and say, could you give me some advice on what you think is the best way to approach, being considered for these types of boards, or what type of board would be the best fit for me? It's not reasonable to ask for time or even, somebody to help you until they know you.
And it's so true. The value of relationships I always talk about is being the golden ticket to success. And relationships is a give and take. And it's not a taking situation. The more you give in relationships, you receive so much from that.
Yes, I believe that.
So what have there been challenges in your journey? And what have they looked like for you?
I think everybody who is in your audience listening has had challenges and setbacks, and it's that we get back up and we keep on going. The challenge or the failure isn't the issue. It's that you get back up and you go back in, and that you believe in yourself and that you suit up every day. So on the worst days, that's the day that, that old line from the song, smile and the world smiles with you. Even if the smile isn't in your heart and in your eyes, if it's on your face and you're going out of your way to not wallow, Pity Town is a place you can visit, but you can't live there. So suck it up and go back out there. And the worse you feel, the more you make an effort to be nice and help others. And soon the smile is reflected back and you'll get that positive energy and you'll get your mojo back.
And it's interesting. I come from the New York City is where our home office is. And it's on those days, it's just smiling at strangers crossing the street gives you so much energy back. And it's by the time I've made it to my office, we have the ability to feel like a different person. When
yes,
we
you control your destiny.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
and you got to believe it.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the importance of believing that everything is here for us and believing that we have the ability to accomplish anything we so choose.
Well, of course you do. Anyone who's listening to your podcast is already on the path, right? They want to improve. They want to learn. They want to grow. They're looking for, insights and advice. So they're already, in the successful half of the population who's going to make it because they're controlling their destiny. They believe in themselves and they want to empower themselves. That's the first decision each morning. Am I going to be happy? Am I smiling? And tell yourself you are, because why not? Why not you? There's nobody better.
Have you, going back to relationships for a minute, because I truly do see relationships as the golden ticket to success. Has there been significant relationships in your career and your journey that have made such an impact? And are you able to share a little bit about the value of those relationships for you?
I think that it's relationships at all levels. I mentor my CEOs and my board colleagues, and I mentor members of the exec leadership team. And, I mentor all of the people at all of the levels I get to speak to. So whether it's, the cocktail waitress at Wynn, or it's the factory worker at Volvo where we do lunch and learn and, meet people on the factory floor. If you're always trying to learn from others and get their view and then help them back, you're always going to stay vibrant. And I think that when you look at special relationships, it's been, for me, the things that I find most gratifying is the mentoring of the CEOs and the mentoring of the leadership team on the private corporate boards and the public boards. I find a lot of learnings in that and a lot of psychic energy from it.
I can understand that. And that is true value and great relationship building. So if you had some advice or tips to give women leaders who are navigating their career, who have desires to start being on boards, and I know your book breaks it all down, can you give us some tips along those lines?
I think the first thing to do is work in your organization. That's your home base and your power base. So I would look to work with, your boss and build relationships with, your boss's peers if your boss is not the CEO. I would look to build relationships in industry groups if your company is in a particular, healthcare or hospitality, automotive, whatever. So I would look to build relationships and get known in the industry groups. I would look to make sure that you are staying very contemporary on innovation cycles and that you're forward educating yourself on what's new, how is tech going to change your industry and accelerate your industry. So I would look at innovation. I would look at entrepreneurial companies and around your industry. And I would look around your industry as a first step and then look to build relationships in your company where you could have variety of mentors who might help you on different aspects of your personal growth, whether it's your branding, your communication, your learning, financial literacy, whatever it might be. And then I would look actively at women's groups because there's an amazing set of resources out there for women now, and both on joining boards as well as developing your leadership skills. It's like anything else. If you work at it, you'll be successful. You just have to apply the mental calories and carve out the time. And it's so rewarding for yourself to see where the journey takes you.
So as you're describing this, I'm seeing like a visual of circles. So you start with where you're working, whether it be your manager or their peers, and you start building that network. You build the network with it. The next circle out is you build the network from your industry, and you start becoming, building a leadership base within your industry. And then you look for women.
Or even, I'm sorry I interrupted you, or even your functional group, right? You're a supply chain person, the CFO, it could be your functional capability. But sorry, I broke your cadence.
No, absolutely. And then look, there's an enormous amount of, you're right, women leadership development. And so build these circles out. And that's what I'm hearing. It helps you build your brand and your network to support that.
I think that's exactly right. And then, keep forward depositing in that relationship bank. Keep helping people and showing them what you're learning and proving that they'd be proud to introduce you by always closing the loop. If somebody gives you a suggestion, you want to memorialize it and come back to them and acknowledge they suggested you do A and B, you tried A and B, here's the results. You got to close the loop. People don't close the loop. And if you don't do that, you don't give the other person who helped you their psychic paycheck and motivation to help you some more. Close that feedback loop. Differentiate yourself as the person who follows through, follows up, is deeply appreciative.
I love that you're bringing that out as a talking point, because sometimes I have noticed with women is they don't want to acknowledge what they've done. So they're like, yes, I did it. I said, did just what they told me to do, so I'm good. They would expect me to follow it. And you're bringing it back to, no, you need to let them know so you close the loop. It's a responsibility, not versus, oh, I'm not showing off, or I'm not boisterous about it. But this is a responsibility to the person who gave you suggestions to close that loop, and let them know you've taken the action and gain that respect.
It will make a huge difference. It will create more relationship capital for you and a deeper connection to that person. And you're demonstrating that you're responsible, that you care about their advice, that you want an ongoing relationship with them, not a transaction. And people move you into a different mental category when they feel you care about them and you're wanting to develop an ongoing personal relationship and connection.
Has there been in your experience and in all the work you've done, anything that stands out that has surprised you?
It surprises me how easy it is to do this if you put the energy and time in. It seems like this giant, unreachable goal. It's far off. It's the pathways into the boardroom are opaque and Byzantine. And so, people don't aspire high enough. And really, if you work at it, you can get this done because there's many pathways. Look at the ecosystem that surrounds the boardroom. There are the attorneys that advise the board. There are the accounting firms. There are the compensation consultants. There's the investment bankers. There's the public relations firms. This is 5 groups of people just off the top of your head, not to mention the investors who would be, either the, public pension funds like the CalPERS, CalSTRS, or the big index funds, or the venture capital or private equity. There's so many pathways in, and you need to programmatically think about cultivating relationships with all of these channels to the boardroom, because you don't know where the connect will come, where you'll feel that kinship with someone and somebody will see how capable and talented you are and want to work with you. And, it's like any business development activity, it's a funnel, a pipeline of prospective relationships that you're going to go cultivate.
So, Betsy, as a woman leader yourself, tips, strategies of advice for women who are taking their careers, their leadership roles by storm, navigating everything else that goes on in our lives. So how do you take care of yourself, your world, have a social life, etc.?
I think you have to make time for the things that make your heart sing. What brings you joy? Is it learning? Is it hanging out with your sister or your cousin? Is it, time with your children? But figure out those things and carve that time for yourself, whether it's yoga, getting your nails done. So make sure you give yourself time for the pleasures to recharge your batteries. And then the other side of it is, because everyone's so busy, is take out the pruning shears. If you want a tree to grow, you got to cut the dead wood out. So there are people who you keep in your life because I've known them for 20 years, but that's the phone call you dread. They're going to just go on and on, empty your emotional batteries. It's all about them. They want to ventilate their anxiety. You got to edit those people. You've done it long enough. Just, prune that dead wood. You got to make room in your life for the growth, for the new green shoots. And you got to cut out some of that, time sink. And, you can't keep putting, 10 pounds into the 5-pound bag. So you got to programmatically figure out, what do I not do? Who do I not talk to anymore or talk to less?
And it's always, I always, in complete transparency, and I love how you phrased it, is who brings me joy and who do I say, oh, I'm supposed to call them? All those supposed to's need to be starting to filtered. Very true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody has some amount of, I try to give myself a no jerk rule. I passed 50. I don't really have to work with jerks anymore. If you're in an operating role in a company, you probably still have to work with some number of jerks. However, mitigate and minimize your interaction with them and work with the people who are high ethics, high integrity, want you to grow, want you to succeed, you learn from.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Betsy, any last tips before we sign off?
I think that you will be able to achieve your goals. I spent a long time writing this book to inspire everyone out there who wants to move forward in their career, aspire to the boardroom on how to message and think about it. And I hope that my book, Be Board Ready, will be a resource. I labored long and hard on it just for people in your audience. And I think that you've got an audience of talented, incredible people. And I want to hear about everybody's success going forward on their life's journey.
So how can our listeners follow you, learn more about you?
I publish regularly, weekly on Forbes, and I put everything up on LinkedIn. Also on my website, which is just my name, Betsy Atkins. My book's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I want to learn about the people out there, and I hope it touches somebody and helps somebody.
So listeners, remember to go to BetsyAtkins.com, follow her on LinkedIn. I know I will be. And be in touch. Let her know about your journey, your successes, and how women are making a bigger impact every day as leaders, as board members, CEOs, startups. We are a powerhouse to be, and thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story.
Great to be with you all.
To shine.